So it's my great pleasure to present to you our home team, if I can call them by that name. All the ladies are closely associated with the Language Center here at Masaryk University, and the team consists of Alena, Hradilová, Štěpánka, Bilová, and Barbora, Chovancová. And all the ladies teach English at the Faculty of Law, so they specialize in teaching English for legal purposes. They are also currently writing a book on the same topic. And today they promise to take us to a different level of reality. That's how I understood it. So it's a different state of mind, which has a special term. It's called flow experience, and it is a term formulated by an author whose surname I'm not able to pronounce, but I'm sure that the ladies will explain it themselves. So that's all from me, and I'm just looking forward to this experience.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for such a nice introduction. And you revealed a little bit of what we are going to talk about. But I'm going to start with a short behind-the-scenes story. When we first started planning for this CercleS event, we wanted to present something new. So we looked in the call for papers, we looked at different topics, and we came across the word flow. And at that time, flow, at least for me, meant just something connected to yoga. We all practice yoga, so this was and this is also, hence the name upward-facing dog, which is one of the poses in yoga. And as it's connected to motivation, we felt that it's much better to have an upward-facing dog than a downward-facing one. We've got also an illustration of a dog, and this is also a result of the Corona crisis. When I was working at home and my children were there as well, distracting me all the time and trying to do their homework, I needed something to make them occupied, so I got them a dog, which is going to guide us or accompany us through this workshop as well, because dogs are very good at the here and now thing, which is important for flow. So, as I said, we didn't know much what to imagine under the term flow experience. It was first coined in the 1970s by a scholar of Hungarian origin who works in the US. He's now in his 80s, and his name is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And here we've got a definition. Focused attention on a limited stimulus field containing challenges matching or marginally higher than the person's skills. It is sought out by people because the state of is enjoyable and they wish to experience it again and again. We first look at sports examples, so it would be dance or ballet, a moment in which you can lose yourself. Here we've got a quotation from a language expert, Joe Egbert, in 2003, looked at flow in language teaching, and she confirmed that it exists. And if it's induced successfully, it can lead to a powerful and effective learning experience. So this is something that we strive for in our classes. We have been working with motivation and creativity for quite a while, so this is combined to achieve the desired learning outcome without apparent hardship or difficulty, which is also very nice. So how do we achieve that? These are the conditions which were listed in the literature. So it needs to be, the topic needs to be really fascinating, motivating stimulus field. The goals need to be clear. Feedback needs to be present and immediate, and the right level of difficulty. In Mihai's definition, we had that the challenge needs to be just right at the level of the students or slightly higher. Štěpánka, will you please take over now?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Bara. So, after learning what the flow in the language classroom is, we thought about our own classrooms and what the learning looks like there, and we tried to find the moments of the flow. So we have 4 semesters of legal English where we see students every week. So that's rather a lot. And so we identified some parts where we could see the flow. Any ideas where it could be? We are in the legal English classes. So I know that David has some experience with legal English.
Not a lot.
Not a lot? No. Okay, so I will, at the end, I will, no idea. Okay, so at the end, we might ask you whether you have any experience. So in your own lessons, so we looked for the moments where we set the task, and students are so engaged that they don't want to stop. Of course, there is always a time limit, we said, and suddenly there is so much talking, so much hush in the classroom, and the students don't listen. They wouldn't stop, they would go over. So those were the situations like when we practice mediation, in the sense like explaining a law to non-lawyers. So, for example, client interviews, negotiations, mock trials, legal drafting, very often in teams where there needs to be some cooperation, or it can be some analyzing interesting cases, legal cases like human rights violations. And so we were very happy to identify the activities with the flow, and we found some common features, that those tasks are professional-related activities. And what is important is that they don't want to stop with the activity, and they want to continue to analyze it, so that there is some reflection, feedback given. So it really went hand in hand with what we found in the literature that Barcha mentioned. When we planned our workshop in February, preparing the abstracts, then we thought that we have the whole semester ahead of us, that we will bring the evidence of flow from the spring semester, which didn't happen, of course. So, but luckily, we have one or maybe more pieces of evidence, and this will be the activity that we will speak about today with you. So,
okay, so the negotiation activity, what's in it for you? Okay, what you will experience today, or what we will do together, because this is a workshop where we're not going to talk all the time, obviously. We will do some talking because we need to describe the activities to you, but we will also show you some video samples where you can work with what the students actually do. We haven't had the semester with our students in the classroom, so we couldn't make any videos from like what we do in class. But I happen to do video conferencing sessions where my students communicate with some students in Finland, and they do this activity online, and I have video recordings of that. So we will show you samples from that particular group. Okay? But we do the same activity in class as well. It works in a very similar way. We will want you to experience part of that, what students do, and we will want you to reflect on what both the students do and what we have done and seen, and so on. So, first of all, a very simple activity. I will just play a video to you, which is a sort of an introduction to negotiations, simple bargaining. And you don't need to do much, just watch and concentrate on what's going on in terms of negotiating.
Relative is not in the cards right now. I thought you'd be excited to have an acting job.
If it's an acting job, we should get paid.
Yeah, you gotta get paid and experience.
I want to actually get paid.
All right, what do you want?
$600 for the day, plus overtime if we go over 8 hours. I'll do my own hair and makeup, and I want you to pay for the 6 week intensive acting camp that my mom paid for.
$50 for the day and a 2-week acting class at the YMCA in New York City.
$500 and 4-week acting class.
$300 and a 3-week class.
Done.
I would have done it for $500.
I would have done it for the experience.
Okay. So, what do you think when you've seen this video? What would you tell? Have you seen any principles of negotiation being pointed out in that short video? Any ideas?
Maximum bargaining positions.
Maximum bargaining positions. So that's exactly what we do with our students. We start drawing these charts, like you need to get ready, what you want as a maximum, what's the maximum that you are willing to give, what's the minimum where you are going to go, and so on. So there is a lot on going on in the discussion about getting ready, getting prepared for a negotiation. But obviously there will be other things that you need to be observed if you want to be a successful negotiator. Now, since you're not students, you're teachers, and you've done a lot of that stuff yourself, I suppose, we could have a look at what you think about some rules and tips for negotiators. Now, Marketa, you will be a member of the audience for us as well, okay? So could we make you into 2 pairs so that we have 2 groups? Make it a little bit more workshop. Yeah. And in case...
Would you like to come over here?
Sure.
Young lady.
That was a quick negotiation. Excellent. Now, a quick question. Do you think that you had some sort of a device where you could go online and do a little bit of writing in a...
Wow.
No, don't worry.
We're both very...
What we do with students in classes, because a lot of students all have computers with them, so we usually ask them to go online to find a shared document where they type in real time, and then we play with it as teachers and put it all together, so we all fiddle with writing in the same computer.
It's not necessary, it's not necessary. You know, it's fine.
Don't worry, I will give you... Pen and paper, you do have an hand. Okay. And I would like you to do the old-fashioned job on together, working on a simple list on what to do and what to avoid while negotiating, from any perspective that you can think of. Right? What the students who are supposed to start negotiating should know or should take into account while preparing for negotiation. Okay? So I'd like you to take, let's say, 3 minutes together in your text, right, to do the to avoid list. Yes, yes.
Also, to avoid this, not give away.
They started off with the very sort of maximum positions, and they said, and you can have
There are different elements in that offer. No expectation to be give way in one area.
compromise to us.
So, no, exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
That's
Right. Since there is only the four of you, could you sit down closer together and just share what you've written down? And share it with us as well. So what to do, as we mentioned, start at your maximum position or even higher, so that you have room to go down. Then connected to that is know what compromises you're willing to make at the start. So number 2, David said offer something extra. That's some sort of entitlement. Have poker face, do not betray your emotions or actions towards the other side is saying. What to avoid, giving it too quickly to their under the pressure. Do not give away your minimum position. And yeah.
Okay, and in case you would like to add it to your list or anything to your list, what's not in that, what's not in your list and what has been mentioned, you can make a note. And then the same.
So to add something which has been mentioned, so what to do to be confident, to come prepared, to research the partner or the one who I'm going to negotiate with, be flexible, be realistic. And that's probably it. We have something about the compromise, be ready to make compromise. What to avoid? Avoid being aggressive, inflexible, stubborn, and as opposition to realistic, like not to fly too high. That's what we have.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got points both in terms of preparation and also in terms of soft skills, behaviour, politeness, all those principles around that. Now, what you've just created and what our students create, like Google Docs, are actually the checklists or even feedback forms for classmates, right? What we do in our classes is that we fiddle with those documents, and then we come up with a clean version, which Chovancová is going to show one of the examples from one of the sessions. This would be student-made checklists and student-made feedback forms. So then when it comes to the real negotiations as a class activity, there will be a team of negotiators and observers of that particular negotiation. Okay, we've got case studies, and one of the teams gets case study 1, case study 2, or the second team, case study 3 for the third team. And then the others are observers, and they give feedback according to the checklist they have created. And so you've got your own checklist for today's session as well.
Okay, so you can have a look whether you want to add anything to your checklist, because you will need it later in the same way as students. But you can see that the students had points, also the same points.
Yeah, almost everything.
Because every group has their own checklist, so we really give them up to the students, because you can never have everything included.
Motivational, it's normally what you do with somebody in a team, but if you're opposing somebody, is it meant that you're somehow motivating them to offer something, I suppose?
Could be, it depends on what kind of negotiation you have, because it could be cooperative, like it need not be aggressive.
Yes.
A win-win situation.
Yes. In that case, being motivation.
You're not trying to beat the opponent. The cases have been written in such a way that there is no winner in it.
Right. Mm.
Yeah, and the aim is really to sort of agree on the situation that both are happy. So this is, it's not really to destroy the opponent.
Which was difficult because we don't yet have a context.
No, this is just having right or wrong.
Yes, exactly. That's why every group has their own checklist, because every group comes with various different ideas. So there's nothing right or wrong with.
And once they make their own checklist or their own feedback form, they're happy with it because that's they own it.
Yeah.
So that's a springboard for discussion.
Yeah, and this is just, we mentioned 2 activities that we do as preparation for negotiations. There are others, because our students meet or they negotiate throughout the 4 semester more time. So when they first encounter negotiations, it's like the stages, the use for phrases, then diplomatic language might come, strategies. So depending in which stage of negotiation skills they are, we prepare different preparatory activities. So here this task is rather funny for the students, is to use diplomatic language. So not to say that's out of question, that's totally unacceptable, I don't know whether you can see it, it's not good enough. That's a stupid idea. You are starting to use me. Oh, this is a really it is a real phrase from a video, a different video that we use. And now, so the task would be: could you say anything in a better way?
This is what you think. What do you say?
Yeah. So what you think, but what you say is different. Yeah. So,
Well, just a kind of other point is that, like, even just brevity can be too rude, especially if you're British.
yes, exactly. Because if we get to more.
So Czech speakers that speak English have to learn to speak long. So you might say, I'm afraid to say that you find that totally unacceptable. I'm really sorry to say that. And then it's got a different tone altogether.
Exactly. This is I'm afraid, or unfortunately, or also making long.
But the idea totally acceptable can be in there because that's what you really are saying.
Yes. But you must introduce it in a way. You need the language around it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it won't be possible for us to accept this.
Yes.
Yes.
At all.
here to be far too polite and almost PC. But it's actually an advantage in negotiating, I would imagine.
Yes, exactly. And this is what we try to explain to our students. Yeah, but we need to do pieces by pieces. I mean, we cannot cover, because negotiation is such a large topic.
Yes.
Alena, it's a nice phrase for this one.
I think the best phrase I was given by my students before you were starting to piss me off was, shall we have a cup of coffee?
So defusing.
Yes, very,
Everybody, both sides are getting uptight. If you can see it, then just step away and have a coffee.
And they are getting to the pragmatic level of language through this exercise, when they realise that you don't want to be direct in some cases, that you have other ways to convey what you actually want to say. So I've had enough, I hate you. So let's relax. Shall we go have a coffee and continue later? Time out. Nice.
Okay, and now we go to the actual case that we use, and that you will
Don't worry, I'm not going to make you actually perform. It's just for you to get familiar with this activity. As you can see, the original idea comes from a textbook. It's Amy Crowley's and Landfurth's Introduction to Legal English, in which they use this activity as a writing task. You've got the facts of the case on the left, and then you've got the information, relevant information, like quotes from relevant legislation on the right. And students are supposed to be the lawyers or counsels representing the two parties. One is an employer, the other one is a former female employee who is suing the employer for sex discrimination. She believes she had been discriminated against. So we use this scenario to work with the students. They work in groups, and as you can see, this is the task as they give it to the students. So they need to study the case already in their team, so either for one or the other party. They need to, that's the legal task, they need to read the facts of the case and find what the legal issue is. And then the language bit, prepare for negotiation. They have to work in a team, they have to work out a strategy, prepare the arguments, and don't forget about the politeness, about this aspect of the task. Štěpánka, will you please?
Yes, I will. And your task will be not to negotiate, but to provide feedback to those students. So what we will do, we will play a bit of a video. This is 5 minutes out of 50 or whatever. So just a short one. Now you have your do's and don'ts, what to do, what to avoid. So you can have this as the starting point, but feel free to comment on anything that you will see. So your task, imagine that you are to give feedback to the students. The situation is, as Barbora mentioned, one party, these are Czech students. They work for the employer, which is a law firm from New York. And then you will see two Finnish students, and they represent the lady who claim to be discriminated against. Now, we are in the phase of the middle of the negotiation, and the problem is the phrase unlimited career growth, which was stated in the advertisement for the job. The expectations of the lady was to get to reach the position of a partner, which didn't happen, and so she felt discriminated. So, ready to make notes?
When you talk about the job, you stated that there are unlimited career growth possibilities.
Sure, yes, but one that you take care of the background as for the working roles, improving your skills and so on, not the pay rise. That's not in the contract. There was never said that there would be a pay rise in a hiring contract, whereas on the other contract it was.
Unlimited career growth possibilities. And this is a law firm that actually implies that there is a chance for partnership.
Career and partnership are two totally different worlds. It doesn't go together. The career growth is something extremely different than a partnership in a law firm. So we, in fact, offer unlimited career growth. For us, this would mean that we pay all the expenses of your education that you take in our firm. We pay for your relocation, we pay for your staying abroad, and we actually pay you more than the national average. So that is for
The normal employee will look at this and see it as a possibility for partnership because that's the standard in a law firm. If
we are
you say that, you should have written it in the application because now she took the job because you stated that they were unlimited.
our firm.
And afterwards said, no, but not a company we do it like this.
Our firm takes great confidence that we discussed this multiple times throughout the career, that this is a non-partnership job. We discussed it with her, not only at the
All grievances. Did you lure her to the job, what do you call it? Interview on false pretenses?
No, we didn't.
Then why did you state that it's unlimited when at a law firm unlimited usually means partnership? So you're
No, it doesn't necessarily mean
that doesn't actually include what you're saying in the application. So you're in your application. Is that okay? And then you state it while you're in interview.
You still repeating the same thing. It doesn't rely.
You have to say something in the application that you change it. And you will see the offer. It would be that this means.
Okay, we can agree that we don't understand each other, so let's move to another argument. Because there are two different things that you think that are the same and not. We won't agree on that. Okay, let's move to another. So let's discuss. Okay.
It's very important.
It is sure.
You have to understand that just because you meant something doesn't mean that you actually told this to my client because she was application. Okay.
You actually implied we didn't mention. We take really great effort to explain what unlimited career growth means. We explained it from the interview and we discussed it with our employees throughout the year, multiple times, on multiple sessions. And our company takes great pride in that and we take great effort and telling us that we are misleading our employees into thinking that they are in a unlimited and that they can grow until they became an employer. Now, it is out of this world because we are really taking great effort and pride in this.
Yes, you don't have that black and white, and you have your black and white stating unlimited.
Yes, unlimited.
Yes. If you ask in your clause, in your job, you have to be very clear about it. Also in the job application, you can't say something in the job application and then change it in the interview.
We haven't said in the application that it is a partnership job. Career and partnership in law firm are two completely different ways, and we are expecting lawyers. We are expecting lawyers to know that because we are not hiring normal people. We are hiring one of the best people in the world.
Okay, maybe you can, after you complete your notes, maybe you can discuss briefly with your neighbors or all together, because there will be one more bit. So if you want to just share your feelings.
And she insisted on saying that they was a contract, that it was not written there, it should be more specified. It's not, and I thought that she kept referring to that definition. It was very good. And she still sometimes affected your interruptions. And fortunately, times because they are, I think that it's like, you know, because you have this,
I think if you're on the offensive, then it's very difficult to let go. And
maybe I know this would be defined as. Yeah, he said, and everybody was just like, oh, and just being the third person in a way. And I don't think this is the art.
He said that, he said just move away. I mean, basically,
Okay, and I want to say that because he was not a person, he always referred to the company, he said, we take pride in that.
They try to get the language.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you have some producers like about what should not be? Can we discuss what was good? What was
It's not important.
Because now this tiny bit that now is really shorter is what happened that the students needed time out. So what you can this again to give feedback to the students.
So just add.
Just add whatever. Just continue with your notes for the feedback.
Okay.
They can't decide whether they want time out or what. Like,
No, this is an accidental thing, because at this moment, when they said they wanted a timeout, they said they wanted a timeout, we muted our mics, so we couldn't hear each other. But then the video recorded both of the parties, which we didn't know beforehand. So we could hear the reactions from both the Czech side and the Finnish side. But was there any phrase that you could work out from?
Actually, this second bit
So basically what happened is that the Czech students started immediately discussing everything in Czech.
And on the finish side, the problem here, you're not listening. You're not listening. You haven't been listening to what they say. So that was like the communication that happened on
The teacher, that was the teacher's intervention on the French side. Instructing the girl. Okay.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah,
Yeah.
Alena, you
So what do you
discuss, you can discuss the film.
Yeah, so basically you've discussed something together in your class. Do you think that you will be willing to share it with everybody? No. Okay. So anything on what you've seen so far, what sort of feedback would you give to those students?
Didn't seem there were defined roles. So from the beginning, that one boy was interrupting the other. If we're looking at modern business and legal life, why were only the guys speaking? They would be torn to pieces by the PC grenade, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that struck me. Yeah. Not what they were saying. You were focused on what they were saying. Right?
Yes, you're right.
You probably noticed some stuff. Yeah.
So on the Finnish side, so the
That's the exact opposite.
That was the exact
Yeah.
It's a sex discrimination case.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we all notice the point of the fact that there seems to be a sort of, the thing, the Czech side was not playing as a team. They hadn't clearly defined their roles, and then one guy was sort of interrupting the other. I thought I don't know, it's just the quality of the argumentation. One side they're saying career development doesn't involve becoming a partner. We're quite obvious it does. They just kept on repeating the same arguments again and again, but they didn't make any progress in the negotiation because they were just saying, you're discriminating. No, we're not, because being a partner is not part of career development. They're getting nowhere, basically. Finnish side said, you're not listening. The Finnish side said, well, there's a teacher saying you're not listening to what they're saying. Well, they didn't change the message, so they had plenty of time to find out what they were saying. Sorry.
I'm sorry to point out that they could show more understanding to the other side, because there was quite a lot of aggression from the Finnish side where they were pushing and the other were giving in. So maybe they could try to say, yeah, we understand your position, but the case is this and that. And as you were saying that there were no expressions to preface, for example, I'm afraid that, or from our point of view, this is the case.
So no meta language that would
Just no language to aid the negotiations. In the end, it wasn't a negotiation. It was two sides sticking to their guns. I thought the girl made mocking head movements at one point, as if she's arguing with her boyfriend or something. Be careful what I say, but if she was arguing with somebody, yeah, she was interrupting. She got shrill, meaning she raised her voice. But the guy with the, I don't know, the guy with the blue, kind of blue shirt, he allowed himself to become frustrated. He had frustration with body language. Yeah, and in the end, even the other guy got a little bit frustrated and showed it. So they were allowing escalation. They were reacting, and allowing kind of the whole thing to escalate.
with the language.
Yeah. And you said, what did you say? You said that he said, move on.
Yes, I think I had the impression that the blonde boy said, we can't agree on this point, let's move on. And I have no experience with negotiating, but I think that you can move on when the point hasn't been resolved, I think. Or can you?
Was there another point? I didn't know if
There was a whole discussion.
You could say, okay, I don't think we're making very much progress here. Can we come back to it?
Yes.
Let's move on. Let's not discuss it again. Just saying, okay, if he wants it, he wants a match. actually no, they don't want to. Actually, the Czech side do not want. They do want to move on. They don't want a resolution of this because they say we're in the right, you're in the wrong. So you could say, can we come back to it? And hope that they never come back to it.
Yeah.
So in principle, it's kind of fine, but to say move on is what's it? What is it? Rozkazovací způsob. Sorry, imperative. I don't think of English. Yes. So to use imperative to somebody.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to irritate.
I think it's having his own, not just as much the own team.
I don't think his own team, he was saying, I don't know. I didn't notice it.
No, he said it to the girl.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that what he said was like, I can see that we can't agree on this point.
Yes.
So can we move to another point here?
Yeah.
And then she said, no, but this is very important. So she was like,
Can we move on? No.
And if we go back to the way the Finnish girl was speaking, do you think it has something to do with watching illegal movies? Because very often the lawyers there, the representative, is portrayed as aggressive and pushing. And it seemed to me that she was into this, getting herself into this role.
pretending to be in the United States.
Yeah.
Going
after you.
But that's courtroom, and the trouble is if you equate, I suppose even, I don't know about legal negotiations, I know courtrooms are battle. And negotiations, I'm not sure what happens there, probably they're quite hard. Again, my experiences of negotiations in films is that they twist things a bit, and they try to get somebody into a corner.
Right, so like argumentational policies and
that's right.
Well, yeah, it's just very.
But then I think that's more what's described here as more sort of American courtroom thing. Because when I teach mooting, and I sort of show that it can be very aggressive in the UK courts as well. But all they do is objection drama and sustain or overrule. And dealing with the British barrister getting up and the English barrister getting up and saying, "May it please your lordship, my learned friend is indeed in the witness." And he says, "You wouldn't want to do that, Mr. Bragg, would you?" That's also a stereotype, but I think the style is a bit different.
In terms of the flow, did you think that students were in flow?
No.
Well, how would you describe their state of mind in that particular exercise, like using English as a means to perform a task?
The fact that they weren't doing very well doesn't necessarily mean they weren't in that zone. As we think in sports terms, we would talk about it as being in the zone.
Okay.
Within the flow.
So they frustrated, which is not what you want in a flow.
I thought they were frustrated.
But in a sense, they were in the flow as they were immersed in the activity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not the girls necessarily, as we said.
Immersed, but there was something that positive feeling behind it that you don't want to leave. Yeah. The zone you felt must be missing because there was frustration.
Well, it seems like a very real experience to them, which I think is positive, even if they weren't doing so well the task, because then you have the feedback stuff. But I think that they were so engaged, but not, as you said, not everybody equally.
Definitely.
So in a sense, sorry, I'm not saying anything new, but in a sense, the boys experienced something like more because they went into the flow and got it wrong. They're going to actually learn better than the girls who were passive.
It looks like you're enjoying yourselves now.
I'm going to show you a few more seconds. You will see what happened when the negotiation ended.
When they
because you pushed the attitudes the way we expected, think that you could actually win like the president, if you had pushed that way, we did nothing.
There is no chance, if we're not in the case anymore, there is no chance of getting reactive damages.
Of course, I guess it's just a papers. Yes.
And before you get reactive damages, you have to have like, every time you see the name of politics, it's like very hard to have, like, it's
No, we can say that the psychiatric damage was caused by the stress that she had with her child being home, and she was stressed about the child. She was stressed that she's being pressured into thinking that she must take care of the child, and at the same time, and if she would actually have a paper from the doctor telling that you will see that she has, okay, then she would actually.
I mean, okay, first off, yeah, children would go through it in that paper. Then you're just handling stress. Yeah, I think in America, might go, but still we don't actually have proof that it has to pay for any psychiatric damage.
So it was sort of a debriefing, and we could see that the students actually didn't want to finish with the activity. The activity is over, and I think that this was the moment when the flow really flowed. Sort of they wanted to communicate, they communicated in English, and sort of naturally flew further.
Then they were communicating what they would have liked to have said if they hadn't been in the sort of...
They were in the other position, you know, they were kind of debriefing the case, like what they expected to hear from the other party, and sort of reflecting on the task rather than...
It was rather funny that if we had more time and could see the whole video, there was sort of a shot like they suddenly relaxed, and it was just 1 second, from 1 second to another, when they said the negotiation is over, and now we want to discuss it, and so this was, you could see that they were smiling now, and yeah, it was really, this was a nice change, how they want to speak about it, and want to debrief it,
So here the language becomes a means to an end. They don't realize that they're speaking in English. They just focus on the content, on the strategies. They're having their legal hat on, sort of. And then of course they get feedback from their classmates, which is partly based on strategies and partly on the language and the soft skills. As for the teacher, it really depends. This is one sample, it's a different activity, but this is what Alena typed as a feedback while she was watching what was going on. Sometimes the teachers just add to what feedback that the students bring, that the classmates who observe the lessons. So it really depends. And this very nicely brings us to the reflection.
And to our reflection, which I started, like, we were looking for the activities or with the potential of the flow. And so after our reflections, we found out that, yeah, the first thing I have already mentioned, it must be or should be profession-related activities, because they feel that they are more important, they are serious, that the students can project themselves into their future careers. So this is really that is not just fun, but it's really something more important. Students need to be in control. It was nice to see that with the negotiation example, they needed to make up their arguments. So it was really up to them which argument they would use or not use. So it's really experiential learning. They need to go through the experience and then they debrief it and talk about it. We were thinking, what's the difference between a simple role play and the flow? And there should be something deeper, really, that the students are so engaged that, as you could see from the reflection part, they wanted to say everything, like yes, and if, and we had prepared this and so on. So what is really important is the feedback and reflection. So it's difficult for us to really structure the lesson so that there is sufficient time for the feedback. This is what I find the most difficult. But it is necessary because then the students, they take a step back and they analyze what they have done, and then they can see that they have learned, in fact. Yes, and we have here that the pleasure derived from successful completion. This is something that somebody has mentioned, I think.
You could see them smiling.
Yes, yeah.
Her expression changed, and the body language of the girl.
Yeah. Yeah, they feel successful and they have achieved something. Well, yeah, we've got a few minutes to maybe, so that you can definitely ask any questions, but you can share your experience.
Just an idea of how much real emotion was she using? Did she really feel that she was the woman who would have been wronged and she got angry on behalf of that woman, or was it like mock anger, or?
It was sort of, I could, but I didn't, I saw her only from the video. Alena knew her more, but my impression was that she acts, yes, that she likes to act, as well,
I think that she was happy to have this particular role. I always warn the students with these cases, if you see this is the case where you have chosen the role because you are the winning party, then you haven't read the case properly. Because the cases aren't really prepared in a clever way, that it's very difficult to say who, who's the winning party. But I think that she was happy to be able to promote women's rights in a way. So that was, and she enjoyed it as well. But then the thing was that what we haven't shown in that was that the Czech students thought, oh God, we've got no chance to win this is horrible, we are going to pay a lot of money and all that stuff. And then the Finnish group asked for very little, which was a surprise for the Czech group. So in case they started talking about what they want right from the beginning, it would have been much shorter. But the negotiations went on and on and on. Once they got to the final point, okay, so what do you want from us? They said we want a sum of money plus an apology, and they said, well, okay, here you go, and we are sorry. That was the end of it, because they expected to be asked for a huge sum of money.
So then, yes, it's down to preparing different scenarios, isn't it?
Yeah.
Flexibility, according to what the other side is going to do.
So it was another learning experience,
Yes.
that they got stuck on something which they couldn't resolve, while they should have taken the shortcut.
Maybe if I could ask, how much did they comment on each other's performance? Because immediately they started discussing the legal issues or what the other party might have said, but how much did they notice some things from the checklist that they had before?
So this was a very natural self-reflection or activity reflection. So they just said, okay, so here you are, and we are sorry, and they immediately started reflecting on the activity. We didn't, as the teachers, we didn't have to step in for that. It was very natural. They still remained within the legal issues and the arguments that were mentioned or were not mentioned, and how they understood what was written in the case and so on. So after this finished, I had to step in and ask the observers to give them some feedback. I wanted them to talk about the soft skills or to look at the list. So they got that feedback more from the observers. And immediately, again, they started self-reflecting on that as well. Talking about their feelings, talking about how they felt and why they behaved the way they did, talking about how it is difficult, how frustrated you feel, and how the fact that you speak in English, which you have to speak in English because that's an international job, how it makes you even more frustrated in a way. So there was it was very layered. The feedback was layered, so the students who were observers would be willing to give feedback, and then the discussion would evolve. And it's always so still in the flow, still on the adrenaline or endorphins or whatever circulates in your blood when you finish such an activity.
Well, yes, all those psychological aspects are endless, aren't they? You know, what kind of day you've had, and so on and so on. What is your relationship to winning, and so on and so on. Yeah, and then chemicals kicking in. Funny.
Okay. So anything else anyone would like to add? Yeah.
Well, I've done mooting with my students, as I said, where they actually have to present a case and present an legal argument based on the precedents. And I did a debrief afterwards, but I didn't do, and also had observers as well. I didn't do these sorts of psychological stuff. But when they actually got into the debrief on the case, they were discussing the issues more when they were doing the formal moot, which I found quite interesting. I think
because then you don't want to reveal too much when you're mooting.
Yeah.
You're just using what's good for your purposes.
Exactly. I mean, the side that lost were very frustrated because they had the better arguments and the law was behind them, and the other side just appealed to protect the consumer without having any real justification for the justification for such interesting.
So the debriefing really gets you to, or gets them more to flow into a moment where they want to share and they're happy, and whether that's really the flow.
Well, we had similar activity in faculty of education where students had to do parent-teacher conferences, and they had to switch. Once they were the teacher, once they were the parent, and then the debriefing stage was the feelings and how that changed them. And there was all of them expressed surprise when they were the parents, even though none of them have children, but having to imagine what it is like and what sort of questions suddenly come up out of that. So that was
So someone else's shoes.
Yes.
It's an important activity for the future
Sorry?
Sorry, no. I was just going to thank you, but you had something more to contribute.
The fact that students know that there is something called the flow, help them get into it, or can it be a barrier? In Star Wars, they constantly talk about the Force. Everybody wants to use the Force if they can, but here, can they kind of be
I don't know, we've never mentioned it.
very speculative, you know what I mean? Or getting into it, or wait a minute.
Is this it?
Yeah.
So they didn't know about the flow experience?
No.
We were looking for it.
Yeah,
What
yes.
we do, we were good. Flow, what is it? We actually do it. Oh, yeah, maybe we do.
And then we do too. Yes, so thank you very much.
Thank you.